while Nobel laureate Wole Soyinka described the declaration as excessive. Also, former Senate President Adolphus Nwabara also condemned the declaration. They join a bandwagon of Nigerians who believe the president played the last card first. Meanwhile, a lawsuit has been filed against President Bola Tinubu following his declaration of a state of emergency in Rivers State. The suit was brought by a group called the Serap Volunteer Lawyers Network, SVLN, in Rivers State. The representatives bringing the case to court include Yurabari Israel Nulog, Nengin Ikpomu Royal, and Gracious Eyo Sifumbuko. Now, joining the lawsuit as defendants are the Attorney General of the Federation and Minister of Justice, Mr. Lateef Fagbemi, Senior Advocate of Nigeria, and the sole administrator, Vice Admiral Ibok Ete Ibas, retired. Are the three arms of government in Nigeria on the spotlight based on recent events? We'll find out. This is the Eastern Eye. I'm Alex Obodo. Welcome to the Eastern Eye here on Afia TV, a program that X-rays the political, social, and economic developments around us. Joining me tonight on the Eastern Eye is Chief Barrister Tom Anyafelude, Editor-in-Chief, Judgment of the Supreme Court Law Report. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Chief Barrister Tom Anyafelude.
Good evening, viewers, and welcome to this program.
Ikenga.
Thank you.
You are in your full regalia.
Thank you, Alex.
All right. So let's get into it. The declaration of state of emergency has continued to generate a lot of comments. Prominent among them is former President Goodluck Jonathan, who says that the way things are going, it looks like one man controls Nigeria's courts. That if Nigeria is not careful, that our image globally will be tarnished because of the perception it portrays. He says that it's worrying that one man has such a stronghold on Nigeria's courts. How do you interpret that, first of all, before we get into the other aspects of the discussion?
Thank you for having me. That is his own opinion, and that opinion is shared by many, including myself, that it appears that the courts are to some extent being manipulated. Not all the courts, some of the courts. Well, but for the former president to make such a pronouncement publicly, indicting the courts, is a little bit excessive. It is true, but there are certain things we do not just say openly, that because the judiciary plays a very crucial role, and it must all the time not be seen to be undermined. Because once you undermine the integrity of the judiciary, rightly or wrongly, that is the end of democracy. So the former president was correct, but I was thinking that that statement would have been a little bit moderated.
All right, the statement should be moderated.
Yes.
Wole Soyinka, Nobel laureate, says the president's declaration was excessive. That's how he described it.
I agree with him. I also agree with the opinion of Jonathan on the declaration of state of emergency. The only where I disagree a little bit is on the comment on the judiciary. It wouldn't have been so open and direct.
All right. So let's now talk about the fallouts of the state of emergency declared in Rivers State. Vice Admiral Ibo, the Vice Admiral is already retired, is in place now. He's running things at the Rivers Government House. But not a lot of people are taking it well. I'm not sure there has been any policy by any government that has been met with sharp criticism like this one. Some described it as state capture, some described it as many things. But a lot of people say, well, they saw this coming right from the time the Supreme Court made that decision regarding the Rivers State House of Assembly, and that the governor should go back and present and represent the budget. Do you think that, yes, the script for this state of emergency was written by the Supreme Court with their decision and the events that followed?
The Supreme Court is supreme, not because it has supreme powers, but it's because it's the last cost in the hierarchy of courts, the court of finality. Now, in that judgment, I was a little bit disappointed because the Supreme Court dwelt on personal issues. They described the governor as despotic. It's a personal attack. A court should not come down to the arena, descend to the arena, and how much more the Supreme Court. A court so much revered, and you are now describing a governor as despotic. And they made so many other remarks. Now, the issue of defection was not before the Supreme Court. The issue of defection of those 27 members was still at the lower court. But the Supreme Court now delved into it, discussed it, and that contravenes a cardinal principle of law. That a court should not start delving into issues before that court. So much so, and that you now start calling the governor despotic. When the issue of defection, whether those 27 members were still members of the Rivers State House of Assembly, has not been determined. And when you know that Fubara presented the budget before the Victor Jumbo's faction, based on court order, it was the High Court of Rivers State that cleared the coast, gave him the go-ahead, the nod, to present the budget before the 27 members. So, where a court has directed an action or sanctioned an action, you cannot say that the person now carrying out the decision of the court is in breach of the Constitution. Because if the other party is dissatisfied with the decision of the court, you are going to appeal. So, the governor presented the budget before that, House of Assembly, the pro-Fubara House of Assembly, based on a decision of a High Court of Rivers State. So, on the whole, the Supreme Court was hard. And I agree that it was the Supreme Court that led Fubara to the shooting range.
And then the other issue is that, after 6 months, Fubara will come back. Oh, well, we never know what will happen. Maybe it might be less than 6 months. The House of Reps are suggesting, well, it might be less than 6 months, but we don't know that. If he comes back, do you think he will make a claim that 6 months of his original tenure has been disrupted?
Of course. Now, let me talk on this issue of 6 months. When it is not, the problem is not giving a monkey water, but to return back the vessel. This man is a retired naval officer, former chief of naval staff. He will test power for 6 months. And you will feel that he will just relinquish power after the expiration of 6 months. It's not going to be easy. Well, many people will fight, including him, will fight back. Well, to ensure that he stays on.
Well, he's there at the behest of the president. At least that's the much we know. If at the expiration of 6 months he refuses to leave, when the president asks him to, well, I'm not envisaging that would happen. I'm much more interested in what happens to who is democratically elected in Rivers State to be their governor. A lot of people are already saying that, well, that he can go to court. But before we even get to him going to court, some people have gone to court, as you will have heard in my intro. There's a group that suing President, the Attorney General is joined in it as defendants. So how do you think this will go? Are they bringing this case too early in the day?
I will use this medium to caution for restrain. Let Nigerians be very careful. Let them not destroy this constitutional issue that requires proper ventilation at the Supreme Court. Now, I've heard from your intro that the president was sued. You cannot sue the president as a person. There's no way you can sue Bola Tinubu as a person because he has constitutional immunity. That's number one. Number two, if you want to bring this type of action, it is against the federal government, not Bola Tinubu. And then, before you institute an action like of this magnitude, you have to check what we call in law locus standi. What is your interest? Or are you just acting based on emotion? You just rush to court to to damage the case of this man? So, one, the prospective litigant, plaintiff, or applicant, or whatever, must have sufficient interest. You must look at the law. It's a technical issue, this issue of locus standi, because where the court of law lacks locus standi, that court has no jurisdiction. The case will just be struck out, dead on arrival. So you have to be very careful. Why should you sue the president on, in his name? No. Then you look at whether there are some other preliminaries, like service of pre-action notice. It is the proper adherence to this procedure that will make the suit valid. Is the government entitled to be served pre-action notice? Is it 1 month pre-action notice? Is it 3 months? No, who are the proper parties? What of the Attorney General? Is he a proper party? What of the administrator of a river state? Is he a proper party? And so forth and so on. So it is not as easy as one may think. It requires the expertise of a lawyer to sit down and constitute a valid action. It's not something you just do and then it will be thrown out and then the judiciary will be accused of, we know that the president cannot allow this. But why the action is not properly constituted? So please, I'm sounding a note of warning. Let proper parties go to court and let the proper procedure be adopted.
So who are the proper parties, Chief Barrister Tom Ayafilude? Who are the proper parties?
The proper parties, the first person is Fubara himself. He has a right, he has a locus. He can go to court, but I'll come back to that. Now, the government of Rivers State cannot go to court based on the decision of the Supreme Court that where a government is suspended, that government can no longer validly bring an action. That is the decision of the Supreme Court. But I beg to disagree. But this is not the proper forum for that. Because in the case of contempt of court, a contemnor, a person in contempt who has disobeyed the order of court, cannot bring an action. But there are exceptions to that. You cannot bring an action unless you have purged yourself of that contempt. But there are exceptions. When you are challenging the jurisdiction of the court, even to make that order, in this case, we are saying that the president and the National Assembly all erred. So the proclamation was not properly debated. It was not, confirmed. So, to that extent, I believe that the government of Rivers State can still bring an action. But the Supreme Court has decided, and their decision is final. So, to my mind, other governors, other states, through the Attorney General, can bring an action. Other states, like the PDP states, I was a little bit excited when it was announced that PDP states will go to court. That will make the action easier and faster. Because when the PDP governors go to state court, it is the states, some states versus the federal government. Now, they will now invoke the original jurisdiction of the Supreme Court. The original jurisdiction of the Supreme Court can be invoked when states, litigate against the federal government or states against states. But individuals cannot approach the Supreme Court. And that is why even where Fubara goes to court, he will proceed to the Federal High Court. From Federal High Court to the Court of Appeal. From the Court of Appeal to the Supreme Court. But if it is the one of the states, it will now be straight. They will institute an action straight and at the Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court, within some few months or weeks, will be able to deliver judgment.
All right, now that you've mentioned the PDP and their ordeal at the Supreme Court, they gave a decision, but you can also see that even the Senator Sam Anyanwu's camp are rejoicing that he was upheld as the National Secretary of the PDP. But within the PDP, they have affirmed that SKE Udokoye is their National Secretary. Help us dissect this, because some people don't quite have a grip of what the decision of the Supreme Court really entails.
There's a principle of law which says that where a court lacks jurisdiction, the court does not decide anything except to decide that it has no jurisdiction. Now, let me give you, illustrating this PDP case, this Udokoye's case, let me give you a simple elementary example. A man and a woman married as husband and wife, and after some time they had a male child. And they were wedded. They wedded in church. Now, in law, once there is a statutory marriage or wedding in court, in the church, which is also an extension of statutory marriage, the customary court lacks jurisdiction to do anything, to entertain any dispute arising from that marriage. When there's a dispute, the parties have to proceed to the High Court. Now, in this case, I'm giving as an example. The man wedded the woman in the church. Now they had a boy, and dispute arose. Now the woman took the boy away back to her medium family. The man proceeded to the customary court. The customary court made an order that that woman should bring back the child. That is the order of custody. Now, the woman appealed to the High Court, or the Customary Court of Appeal. From there to the Court of Appeal, and from there to the Supreme Court, that is the woman. When the woman got at the Supreme Court said that the customary court, ab initio, had no jurisdiction. And therefore, in law, when a lower court or a trial court lacks jurisdiction, the lower court, the Court of Appeal also does not have jurisdiction. So it means that all decisions through the hierarchy of courts were nullity. So the Supreme Court said, strike out the case. Because what the Supreme Court will do is to strike out the case at the customary court. And that case was struck out. The implication is this, that the parties will revert back to the position they were before the commencement of the action at the customary court. In other words, the woman will still hold the child. Nothing will happen. Nothing has been decided. So, in the case of PDP, one person went to contest for the governorship of Imo State and did not get back, and he did not win. He came back. I cannot say whether he resigned, but in his absence, the caucus, PDP caucus, Southeast, nominated some other person, Udokoye, to replace him. And Udokoye was acting, and that nomination was ratified by the NWC, National Working Committee of the PDP. That was the situation before the action started. So, and this is important, you have to determine the situation before the commencement of the action. So, they went to court. Udokoye and PDP now proceeded to the Federal High Court, I think. And the Federal High Court sustained their reliefs. Now, Sam Anyanwu appealed to the Court of Appeal, Enugu Division, the Court of Appeal ratified the decision of the Federal High Court. Sam Anyanwu further appealed to the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court now said that the Federal High Court and the Court of Appeal all lacked jurisdiction. And as I proposed, where the two courts lack jurisdiction, the Supreme Court also has no jurisdiction. So what the Supreme Court did was to strike out the case at the Federal High Court. The implication in law is that the parties will revert to their position before the commencement of the action at the Federal High Court. And what was that position? The position was that Udo Koye has been nominated by the PDP caucus as a replacement to
Sam
Anyanwu. So, although technically Anyanwu had judgment in the sense that the action was dismissed. I mean, his action was not dismissed. The Supreme Court agreed, did not dismiss his action, but they did not agree with him because they said that the court had no jurisdiction. They did not make any...
Yes, but the issue is that in some quarters, especially within his quarters, that's not what they're interpreting.
I am an authority in law. I have written more than 17 textbooks, and I'm telling you the situation in law, that where a court of law lacks jurisdiction, that court cannot make any consequential order. That court cannot decide anything except to say that it lacks jurisdiction. So if anybody is jubilating, I'm not a politician, I'm a lawyer. So that is, I'm telling you the legal situation that since it is now the Supreme Court has now said that they will not be involved in internal affairs of a party. So why should his group be rejoicing?
All right, okay. Now this is what it entails. What does this mean for other political parties?
Very beautiful.
Who might be facing similar tussles?
Alex, this is very fundamental. It's a landmark decision because this issue of political parties and their internal squabble occupy the time of the court. And in law, the court has no jurisdiction except in certain cases. Now, there are exceptions to that. Generally, a court of law has no business to inquire into the internal affairs of a political party, except where the dispute raises a constitutional issue, interpretation of the Constitution, or where the issue of fair hearing or breach of the Constitution is involved. That is where, but ordinarily, go and settle your case. Remember, the Federal High Court sometime said that Magu, or what you call him, the interim chairman of PDP, will still be there until 2020 something. Such decisions will no longer take place. Or that Julius Abore is the properly nominated or elected chairman of the Labour Party. Or that the Congress of Labour Party and the National Congress was properly conducted at Nnewi. All those nonsense will no longer, they will all disappear from the law reports.
All right, I mean, it's a good way to put it, but do you think that the political parties are listening and the politicians within these political parties, they are the ones who keep approaching the courts to waste the time of the courts, and the courts keep entertaining these cases? I mean, isn't there supposed to be some kind of pronouncement, is it from the NJC or whatever it is, and whichever body that should make that rule? You don't occupy the time of the courts with these issues that can be resolved at the party level. But why are the political parties finding it difficult to be democratic at the lower levels?
Now that the Supreme Court has made a pronouncement, of course, it has been there all along. But now that they have reaffirmed or re-emphasize that principle, it will now be used in the court, especially at the Federal High Court. If you consult me, if I'm a lawyer appearing for the other party in a matter apparently involving internal affairs, I will raise a preliminary objection for the case to be struck out on ground of jurisdiction, citing the Supreme Court judgment. So it depends on the knowledge, how knowledgeable the lawyers are, the counsel in the party, in the case are, and then I'm happy it has been re-emphasized.
So at the end of the day, I think we need to take a break at this point. When we return, we will have some more discussions with Chief Barrister Tom Anyafelude here on the Eastern Eye. Stay with us.
the state of the continent of Africa? How shall we interact with the rest of the world? Are we going to relate with the world in terms of donations or in terms of trade? Africa must define what she wants politically. Africa must define herself culturally. Africa must define herself spiritually, because Africa has no choice but to move forward, and forward she will move.
Welcome to the latest and most amazing show on here. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Lunch Break.
You don't sing alone.
I did single.
For real.
You're not a backup singer.
That's what they do.
Hey ladies, join us on Gyno Plus every Wednesday at 6 p.m. right here on Afia TV, DSTV channel 254 and GoTV channel 17, where we will delve into health issues affecting girls and women in society.
Breastfeeding doesn't even cause breast life. The frequency of breastfeeding means the approach you take to make sure that your well-being is maintained.
Opinion of the people matters.
Everything to your Lego.
Oh, nobody wants to hear your voice if you don't have the money.
This is Ogwe.
And another opportunity for us to gist and me to tell you, bring all the spice, all the things that are hot, trending and exclusive on social media. Sometimes I know there's constructive criticism. I know that you know how to quote it. So for the people that don't understand, I want to be like, oh, why are you doing this?
Please, I'm not a cross-dresser. I'm only doing this because of the money on Facebook.
There are some people you need to just tell the truth brutally. Let it hurt them. Give it hot.
Afia TV official, exclusive every weekday on Afia TV.
Welcome back to the Eastern Eye here on Afia TV, a program that X-rays the political, social and economic developments around us. My name is Alex Obodo. So let's go back to the comments by former President Goodluck Jonathan. He warned about the role the three arms of government are playing within Nigeria's constitutional democracy. One is the executive, two is the legislature, and three, of course, is the judiciary. He thinks that maybe the three of them are in cahoots to do things that don't quite paint Nigeria in a good light internationally. Do you think that Nigeria is in danger of, imploding, constitutionally speaking, with the sort of things that are propping up? People are asking questions. Is this lawful? Every day the Supreme Court takes a decision and you see lawyers popping up to say, well, but they didn't quite follow the law. So what's the problem here? And then you go to the legislature. The expectation was that the Senate and the House of Reps would have at least, held some ground regarding the state of emergency that was declared in Rivers. That didn't happen. Do you think that these are some of the things that are actually steering these submissions, the likes of former President Goodluck Jonathan put forward?
Let me rationalize the statement made by Goodluck Jonathan, president, ex-president. Now, let us take the issue of proclamation of state of emergency. Now, that power is derived from Section 305 of the Constitution. There is an angle which many commentators have refused to ventilate. And let me say it now. Elias, I don't know whether you can bring out the opening section of Section 305.
Well, while you continue the analysis...
Now, it says, subject to this Constitution, subject to this Constitution, bra, 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 then it went on. Subject to this Constitution, that statement is very paramount. It means that the power of the president to declare state of emergency is subject to the Constitution.
Yes, it says subject to the provisions of this Constitution.
Subject to the provisions of this Constitution.
The president may, by instrument published in the official gazette of the government,
of
the federation, issue a proclamation of a state of emergency in the federation or any part thereof.
Exactly. So the elements in this provision are: 1, the power to declare state of emergency in Nigeria is subject to the Constitution, subject to this Constitution. 2, the president has a discretion to declare a state of emergency, but it must be subject to the Constitution. This Constitution has specified grounds for declaring a state of emergency. Since the power is subject to the Constitution, you must adhere to those grounds. It mustn't be arbitrary. Then, after the declaration, it has to go, the instrument, gazette, has to be transmitted to the National Assembly. The National Assembly has to now debate, confirm it before it becomes law. So the President of Nigeria sets in motion the process of state of emergency. But it is the National Assembly, comprising the two chambers, that will now debate and confirm. There are two elements here. One is the quorum, even to proceed as a National Assembly. They must have the requisite quorum. And that one is determined by their rules, the rules of the National Assembly. When do they have quorum? But the confirmation of the state of emergency must be by 2/3. That one is constitutional. In law, whenever the Constitution of Nigeria makes a procedure or provides for a procedure, it must be rigidly followed. There is no discretion over whether you will follow the Constitution or not. It is sacrosanct. Now, the issue of quorum is regulated by the rules. In law, when a body makes rules, that body has discretion over its rules. So when you do not obey your rules, you may say that it has not occasioned any miscarriage of justice or that it is not fatal. But you do not have such to say when it is constitutionally provided. Now, let me give you a sample, because most of our viewers are not lawyers. Let me give an elementary explanation. The Constitution says that when going to Onitsha, you must pass through the express. Now, one person now goes to Onitsha and passes through Oka, from Oka to Amobia and so forth, going about Ghana and so forth. The person did not pass through express. Since it is a constitutional provision that your journey to Onitsha is a nullity, null and void. But where your rules says that when you are going to Onitsha, you have to pass through the express, but you decided to pass through Oka, Amobia, and so forth. Now, when you get to Onitsha, it may not be voided because you have a discretion over your rules. So, the National Assembly, the issue of quorum, I do not know, but the issue of 2/3 is fundamental because it is a breach, it's an apparent breach of the constitutional provision, and they do not have any any discretion. They must follow it. And it was not followed, as we know. So that one is, it's in law, in the eye of the law, the House of the National Assembly has not ratified that the state of declaration because it did not meet the constitutional threshold.
Well, unfortunately now, how do you prove that? Because they held the sessions behind closed doors. It was a closed session. Now, and so some of the senators came out to say that they were not allowed to speak.
Now, that is...
Siraka Dixon, Henry Siraka Dixon of Bayelsa, and Aminu Bello Tambuwal of Sokoto, they came out, and even we found out that the likes of Senator Ina Baribe couldn't return when they came out to the open house to now affirm what they decided because they were not allowed to speak their mind. Some people were not even allowed to speak at all during the closed session.
No.
Isn't this something that speaks at the heart of the Nigerian nation?
That is why I'm saying that people that rush to court should be very careful. If the state governors, some state governors, now proceed to the Supreme Court as invoke the jurisdiction of the Supreme Court as a court of first instance. Now, the Supreme Court will order what we call pleadings. File your papers. Now, they will upload evidence and name their witnesses. Somebody like Enyinnaya Baribe, the Siraka Dixon, all of them will be named as witnesses. They will come there and they will come to the Supreme Court and testify. Now, but all of us, they are not denying that it was by voice vote. Those who say favor say hi. Those who against say no, they know. No, that the law is a constitutional thing. The law did not say, the Constitution, appreciates the gravity of this state of emergency. Because by state of emergency, you are trying to suspend part of the Constitution, at least chapter 4, that deals with fundamental human rights. So the law, inputs very serious approach to it. So it is not something you just say hi or no. There must be there must be, voting, and the votes differentiated, and at the result, you declare result. So to that extent, it is my own opinion that the National Assembly did not comply with the Constitution. I have told you where the executive erred. The executive erred by introducing issue of suspension in the Constitution when I have advocated tonight that Section 305 is subject to the Constitution, and there is no way in the Constitution that it is provided that a governor should be suspended. Under Section 188 of the Constitution, a governor of a state can only be removed by impeachment. Now, that was not followed. And in law, whenever a constitution provides a specific mode of doing things, the Constitution provides a specific procedure. You cannot imply any other procedure. You cannot.
Well, unfortunately, President Bola Tinubu seemed to be following a presidential precedent already set by his predecessors. President Goodluck Jonathan declared a state of emergency in 3 northeastern states, Taraba, I think Adamawa, and I think Borno. But then he didn't suspend the governors, and the legislature was in place. But former President Obasanjo declared a state of emergency in Ekiti. He declared a state of emergency in Plateau State when Joshua Dariye was governor, and Ayo Fayose was also governor at that time in Ekiti State. The governors were all told to go. What it looks like for President Bola Tinubu, saying it in Nigerian pidgin, you don't reach my turn and I don't open eye. So, but then what does the Constitution say? Does it say that the president has the powers to overreach what the Constitution has laid out?
I have told you repeatedly here that Section 305, which gives him power, is subject to the Constitution. It means, when you say that something is subject to the Constitution, it means that your actions must be in accordance with the Constitution. It must be in consonance with the Constitution. It must not deviate from the Constitution. It must be, in line with the Constitution. So I'm telling you, Alex, that the Constitution did not provide for suspension. What the Constitution provided is impeachment. And I have told you this night that where the Constitution provides a specific procedure for doing things, you cannot imply any other procedure. Now, let me come to the issue of Obasanjo and all these people you mentioned. A man in my village was fond of beating his wife. So they went to the customary court. The customary court asked the man, why are you fond of beating your wife? He said, my father used to beat my mother. The court said, you're a foolish man. Is it because your father was doing something evil, bad, and that you should now, you don't follow bad precedent. You don't follow unconstitutional precedent. What you follow is precedent decided and approved and sustained. You don't follow those things. And then that is why I'm begging these busybody people rushing to court to take it easy. So let us see whether we should have an opportunity for the Supreme Court to interpret Section 305. Now, because in the case of Plateau State, they went to court and the action was not properly constituted. They brought it in the name of Plateau State government. And the Supreme Court said that once it has been suspended, you cannot use that name again to bring an action. So it was a question of local standing. So the action was not properly constituted. But this time around, if proper parties go to court, we have opportunity for proper interpretation of the Constitution. And when the Constitution and laws are interpreted, it enriches our body of laws.
It enriches our body of laws. Is there something cautionary here that Nigerians should know because of what's happening? There seem to be lots of things that the people don't like, which, perhaps some people might want to take the law into their hands. Is there something that needs to be done to maybe ask the people to calm down, that this, you don't have to act the way you're feeling all the time regarding the decisions popping out here and there?
We anchor our democracy on the rule of law. Rule of law, not rule of self-help or arbitrariness. Rule of law. And that is why in that 1999 Constitution, it is provided the mode of enthroning government democratically. Now, Alex, under the Constitution, they said even the local government level, democracy will be democratically elected local government councils. Democratically elected. And that was why the Supreme Court interpreted that position and said that this issue of caretakership and sole administratorship in local government is undemocratic. If that will apply to local government, how much more the state? So, in the 1999 Constitution, the way of enthroning government is by democratic election, not by appointing a sole administrator. A sole administrator is not known under the 1999 Constitution. And that is why, as a lawyer, I want this to be tested.
You want it to be tested?
Yes, this process of this proclamation, I want it to be tested so that there will be a sense of certainty.
So, I mean, you seem to be excited about this. We'll have a few minutes to go. How do you think this would happen? What's the most formidable way for this to be tested?
Now, it is not the PDP people are saying coalition with that. This is the time to save your party. Let the governors of PDP or some governors come together to challenge this. Now, the issue of local standing, there are two concepts. One is that you must have personal interest. One old, additional. Senator Additional versus Federal Republic. But there's a recent case. That decision was given by our own brother, may he so rest in peace. Where said that there's what we call public interest litigation. Somebody cannot have personal interest, but is canvassing a case based on perceived breach of the Constitution, he will go to court. In this case, there's a body called SARAP. SARAP has a mandate for good governance and accountability. That is one of the objectives for establishing SARAC. When a company or a body or entity goes to court to sue in accordance with its mandate, you cannot say that that court has no local standing. So SARAC can go, but the only problem with SARAC is that they will go through the Federal High Court to the Court of Appeal and finally to the Supreme Court. But if it were these governors, they will go straight to the Supreme Court because it's going to be disputes between states and the federal government.
Do you see the Supreme Court of Nigeria as presently constituted reversing the presidential declaration of the...
All people are watching us. They, just like Jonathan said, the international community, let us not be a laughing stock before the international community. People are watching. There was a time some judges were banned from entering UK and US based on their decisions. So people are watching. Public policy, the public opinion is a very strong, restraining factor. So let them do whatever they want. Like in this case of Fubara, the Supreme Court, to my mind, they have no jurisdiction to make consequential order, stopping the monthly allocation to River State. They would have said, Fubara, go and present the budget before the House of Assembly. And if you do not do that, then your allocation will be withdrawn. Now, let me also say that the River State House of Assembly also frustrated the judgment of the Supreme Court and were in contempt of that decision. And they disgraced the Supreme Court, so to say, if I should use that strong word. Because now the Supreme Court said to Fubara, go and present the budget before the House of Assembly. Not before Martin Amewele's faction. So the first point, the first step would have been to unify the two factions together. That would be, in preparation.
But the governor invited them for a meeting. They refused.
They refused. So then you now rushed to proclaim a state of emergency and remove the governor. So now, let me say this tonight. If they had proceeded with that impeachment, they would have failed. They wouldn't have succeeded in impeaching that governor because I read the notice of impeachment. And the big elephant in the room is the judiciary. Now, that is why they started attacking the chief judge of River State, accusing him of certificate forgery. Now, when they now realized that they have jammed the rock, they now retreated. And this state of emergency and the removal of the governor was the easiest way out. Now, let me now project. What will happen is this. The sole administrator will maybe conduct the local government election within this period. And after that, local government election...
Is it constitutional for him to do that?
I don't know. And is it also constitutional for him to start spending money that has not been appropriated? Can he spend allocation, give money accruing to River State that is not appropriated, realizing that under Section 11 of the Constitution, it is the National Assembly that can make laws for the,
It looks like the courts are going to be very busy regarding...
Very busy. And this man, if he's recalled back, he will go back to the Federal Supreme Court or whatever and say, just like Peter Obi did, they will make up for the time lost because he was illegally removed. If the court holds that he was not properly removed, that period, that 6 months or whatever, will be counted. He will regain it. It will be extended. Tenure elongation.
That would be a good place to leave it. Chief Barrister Tom Anyafulude, Editor-in-Chief of the Supreme Court Law Report. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Alex,
for your analyses and insights on the Eastern Eye tonight.
Thank you.
That's the Eastern Eye tonight. Thank you for watching. We'll be here tomorrow, same time, to talk about a man who probably single-handedly gave Nigeria a special moment in 1993. That's the Professor Humphrey Mosu. We'll be taking a look at his life. Join me on the Eastern Eye tomorrow. tomorrow at 7 p.m. That's after the Super Eagles match. My name is Alex Obodo. Good night.
Time check, it's 2 p.m. and it's time for us to vibe, chill, and relax. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Lunch Break on Afia TV. So Lunch Break is all about the music, it's all about fun, it's all about entertainment, it's all about entertaining gossip and stories from social, it's all about the latest trends, it's about what's lit, it's all about the games with our guests, and yes, in general, I like to say it's all about the vibes and vibes only.
Good evening to you, viewer, and welcome to Women in Business, a show that profiles women, executives, and even the next door store owners, showcasing Igbo greatness to the world.
I started always obsessed with books ever since I was a child.
The stress of always converting naira to dollar and
an incompetent means an incompetent person.
Welcome to Afia TV, your go-to channel for excellent news and incredible shows that keeps you IEI, that is, informed, entertained, and inspired. Need a break?
Ladies and germs, welcome to Lunch Break on Afia TV.
Join Choco to vibe and chill on Lunch Break at 2 p.m. for the latest trends in music and entertainment.
Not like I have big money.
Dive into the world of innovation and creativity with Rochelle on Anka.
It means art in English.
Where creative minds and groundbreaking ideas come to life. Tune in every weekday at 8 p.m. Do not miss Afia TV Official, your perfect dose of laughter, where they discuss what is currently trending on social media every day at 5:30 p.m. on Afia TV.
But in this economy, the savings will save you, man.
And that's not all. Stay tuned for more exciting shows on Afia TV. Catch us on DSTV channel 254 and GoTV channel 17.
When we went on our campaign trail in the build-up to the elections, we made very consequential pronouncements. And we did say that our mission is to ensure that Enugu is the premier destination for investment, business, tourism, and living. We meant every word of it, and we knew the weight of those pronouncements.
12 months ago, Dr. Peter Ndubisimba was sworn in as the governor of Enugu State.
To say that you want to make your state to become the preferred destination for investment means that you needed to also make sure that you have all the key enablers. Tourism, you also want to make sure that, you know, all the things you need. We actually said we wanted to ensure that we attract 3 million people as tourists every year to Enugu. And of course, what that means is that you have to essentially tie all the, you know, connect the dots, you have to have a functional international airport so that people can fly from all parts of the world to here. You also must have the keys.
When it comes to tourism, I would say that we didn't meet much on ground, except the Unity Museum, which is a national outfit, and then the Unity Park.
So talking about Unity Park.
The place now looks more beautiful than before and more organized. Used to sit out, they'll be just roaming around, but now is you can come and have your peace.
Everyone who has been in Enugu for the past years will agree with me that Unity Park has never witnessed this kind of development before. But at the sanction of this government of Peter Mba, you can see that Unity Park has taken a new shape, and many people are coming from far and near just to have a tourist experience.
Unity Park, yeah, I love the whole design they've added because it was just plain before. I think they used to have a swan where they do boats and all this thing, but like now you have different things you could do here. Like it's way better, and at night I like the lights that are everywhere. It makes you feel that yes, this is Enugu.
Before now, tourism was not seen as a revenue generating ministry, but with the administration of His Excellency Dr. Peter Ndubisi, it is believed that the $30 billion that we are targeting to meet, at least 20% should come from tourism.
So you say, oh, I need a 5-star hotel. And somehow you want, of course, investors. Your preferred option would be for investors to come and invest, right? But as government, sometimes you actually press market, right? So you need to get, so if you will, you want